Moldova was a very small town, and everybody knew everybody. A very warm place. We went to soccer games every Sunday. I went to school there. And then the Germans invaded Hungary. They just walked in, and it became immediately evident that things were going to be bad for the Jews.
That was
1944. I was in second grade, and I had a teacher. His name was Balog. He was my teacher in second grade. He was a very tall man. His hair was completely plastered smooth on his head with a part in the middle. And he made a speech. I was just sitting there, and he started to make a speech, and the speech began something like this. He said, "Black crows invaded our country many years ago, and they were eating away at the flesh and blood of our country. And these crows were the Jews," and he pointed right at me. It's horrifying. And I was very scared, and I was also very, very angry. I remember my anger. And that day, his son was in the playground, and my cousin was there. I love my cousin. She was a year younger than me. And Balog's son started to beat my cousin. He pushed her off the swing. And I got furious. And I just jumped on him and pushed his face in the mud, and I really beat him up. And the next day, I was in class, again with Balog, his father. And his father started to make another speech. He said, pointed at me, "Davidovits, it said, beat up my son, who is weaker than he is. But I am glad that he did that, because that will reinforce his hatred for the Jews." I don't know what got into me, but I got up and I said, "Balogur," I said, "Mr. Balog, if you're so glad, I'm going to beat him up again." And he lunged at me, and he picked me up from the seat, and he tossed me across the room. It was very scary.
The star, everyone was wearing a star.
What did your non-Jewish friends...
And everybody was looking at us, of course. And when I wanted to have a good time and play with the other kids, I would take off the star. And my mother would yell and scream, and she said, "You cannot do this, you cannot do this. You are a Jewish little girl, and you must wear the star. That's what they want. That's what they want." I remember just she telling me that. And I said, "But the kids don't want to play with me if I wear this." And until that note came from the school that we could not go to school, that's when really the whole thing started. And my mother, right away where we lived, the landlady had a nephew who was a priest in a little town outside Brussels. And she contacted the landlady, and she said, "You know, they're taking away the children. All Rachel's little Jewish friends are going. Can you do something about my daughter? Can you take her, hide her somewhere?" And the lady says, "Yes, I have this nephew who's a priest. Yeah, I will ask him." And that was the arrangement. I remember my father crying like a baby in the middle of the street while he was taking me to those people and to strangers. And he explained to me, "Don't forget, you're a Jewish little girl. We're going to see you again, but you must do that. You must go away. And we're doing this for you best." Because, of course, I couldn't understand. My mother was crying. And only my father could take me and explain to me, "You got to go. This is for you good. This is for you good. This is the best for you." So I went on the tramway with those people, and this was just before my birthday. And the last time I saw my father was on my birthday. He took a chance and went to the priest's house to see me. And he had sewed up a little suit for me. As I told you, he was a tailor. And he came in, and I was hiding behind the door. I wanted to surprise him. And the priest said, oh yes, I changed my name. My name was no more Rachel, of course. It was Rosa Le Fleur. That was my first name. I had about 3 other names. And it was Rosa Le Fleur. And the priest, Theodor Kunsch, I see him right in front of me. I love him. He says, Rosa, Rosa, come on. I have a surprise for you. And I said, oh, really? And I was scared. I thought maybe something would happen. And I hid behind the door. I didn't know it was my father. Then I heard his voice. And there he was. And the last time I saw my father, he had his suit for me. And he had a little watch on the suit. It was green. I will never forget it. And my mother could not come because they were arresting people all over. And if they came as a couple, they would have arrested them together. But they were arrested the week after. And they were sent to Malines. And how they were arrested, I have to tell you the story. As I told you, the landlady who got the priest to save me could not take the pressure. And she went to the Gestapo. Yes, this is a fact. And she went to the Gestapo and she said, you must come to my house. I'm hiding Jews. Come and get it. People went that far to denounce other people, to hurt other people, to actually build things, to destroy human race. And by the way, not only Jewish people suffer. I mean, I can tell you, nuns were shot. And the mother of my priest, I call him my priest, she was ironing my clothing one day, and the Gestapo came in and they said, we know you're hiding a Jewish child. And she said, absolutely not. I am not. You can look all over. I'm not hiding a Jewish child. They put her in front of the house, and 6 Nazis were, I saw it from my own eyes because I was down in the cellar. And she said, no, you can shoot me. I don't have a Jewish child here. And this was the mother of the priest. So there were people that were so courageous, so marvelous, and yet the contrary is so absolutely disgusting that it's too much of a difference of human being. I don't understand how you can call the whole thing human race. It's monsters, and then there's the human beings. It's weird. I feel very weird sometimes. I feel weird because I say to myself, why did I come out of it? I mean, if my mother had said, let's hide together, I wouldn't be here. It's so strange. It's just absolutely very strange.
Get ready for transport, they said. Get ready for transport. And we thought, well, maybe we were able to be saved once more. But this time it didn't work. This time we were all put into the cattle wagons. We went to the railroad, and there they were, I don't know how many of them. And half the camp was emptied out into the cattle wagons. There were quite a few of us. I don't remember exactly how many. I would say maybe a few hundred. Also, the men were loaded into the cattle wagons. The men with the men and the women with the women. We were into those cattle wagons for 4 days and 4 nights. Then they stopped, then they would go on again. We traveled through Germany, and then we passed through the border from Germany. We threw little bits of paper with our names on it through the slats of the cattle wagon. There were little openings. When the door would open, we would throw little papers out, write to friends or people we knew in Holland. We are now leaving, we're going to Germany. We don't know where we're going. Write little messages to people we knew. Some of the station masters would pick up some of these postcards and mail them for you. Many, of course, were trampled and the railroad tracks went over them and were never found. We went on through Germany, and we would stop at many stations in between the railroad stations, and we could see the countryside of Germany. And day went into night, and they let us out on the side of the road to do what we had to do. I don't remember getting any food. I don't remember if we had any food with us. I think we had taken some food, some bread with us. I don't remember getting fed. By the time we arrived at our destination, just before we had arrived there, we went through a station, and the landscaping had changed. It had gone mountainous. It was heavy, lots of trees, and a very dark mountainous area. And then when we went through these strange-sounding names, I realized it was Polish names. And one station we went through read Auschwitz. It was different spelled. It was O-U, and I tried to read it. We looked through the slats of our cattle wagon. And then we noticed on the railroad track next to us, there were lots of cattle wagons there. They were loaded with people. They were about 3 times the size of our train. There seemed like thousands of people in there. We tried to shout back and forth to those people, and we found out they were Hungarians. And they spoke Yiddish. A lot of them tried to speak Yiddish to us, tried to communicate with us. Few of us understood a few words of Yiddish, and we found out that they had been there many, many days in the cattle wagon. They asked us where they were, and we didn't know. And we said, it says on the station, it says Auschwitz. And we rode on into the station a little further up, and we stopped by a platform. We stayed in the train for several hours. We heard people, heavy boots outside, back and forth, walk back and forth on the station, a lot of noise, a lot of voices, and it was kind of a frightening sound. We had no idea what would be ahead of us. I felt very apprehensive, and I thought, what would this camp be like? Would it be like Vught? Would it be like Westerbork? Will we find some of our family here? We had been that many days in the train. I wonder how my aunts would be and some of my cousins. I'm sure we'll find them there. Maybe there would be other camps. But we had been so many days there, and the rumor had gone around, well, everybody went to that camp, that's where you wind up. Finally, we got out of the cattle wagons. They had unloaded the other cattle wagons first, before us, and evidently that was that Hungarian transport. They went down, we heard noises of people talking and screams and crying and marching and loud voices. And then it was our turn. They opened our cattle wagon doors, and we went down on the platform. It was very dark, and when I looked up to the sky, it was kind of like a red sky and kind of flames going up in the sky. It was smoky, and I said to the girls around me, look at that pretty sky. It's red. And I said, I wonder what that is.
Chella, how have your wartime experiences affected you as a person?
Well, thank God I've never lost my sense of humor. And I even remember periods of having my sense of humor still together with me among all the tragic experiences we had in camp. I even remember putting on a show at one time.
What kind of a show?
We were at one time in one camp where we worked in the factories, and it was a Saturday night, and we went all together in one barrack, and there were a mixture of a lot of Dutch girls and a mixture of some Hungarians, Jewish kids, and we put on we had a few little, of course, among the Jews also everybody's an artist, everybody wants to put on a show, and I was the master of ceremonies. We put on a little show. And wouldn't you know, and I looked in the back, and the Auserin was sitting in the back there laughing her head off. She slipped in, and she I had never noticed her coming in. And rather than giving us a punishment for laughing and joking and telling stories and putting on mimicry, a little mime group, and doing a little tap dance and all crazy things. We're just doing crazy things. I remember doing an impersonation of somebody and making jokes appropriate to the part we were playing in the camp, you know, jokes of what was topical at that time for us. And in other words, laugh at ourselves, which was important. With all the agony and the pain, to be able to laugh at yourself, which we never lost. We would go without it for days and weeks. But every so once in a while, somebody would say something funny and we'd break up. And we did put on a little show. And she was laughing her head off, I remember. And I couldn't believe it. One day she would hit you black and blue, and there she was sitting laughing with us. And then, like, I remember that we would sit in the factory and work very hard, and we would have the night shift, and it was quiet, it wasn't as busy as the daytime shift. And there was one girl who had a beautiful voice, and who would sing all these English songs. And they loved to listen to the singing, the Germans, who were in charge of us. And when she stopped singing, they said, more, more, and they applauded. So that was always with us. We never really gave up on the humor and the opportunity to laugh at ourselves and to make jokes out of a tragic situation for the whole being of survival, I think, so that we would survive, to be able to laugh at ourselves. And I never lost my sense of humor. And I look at my children, they have a terrific sense of humor. I've not impaired them in any way.